Over a year ago, I covered a story about a young woman named Sandra Birchmore. In 2021, Massachusetts authority ruled that Sandra Birchmore took her own life inside of her apartment.
This investigation started when 23-year-old Sandra Birchmore was found dead in her apartment last year after having committed suicide, the investigators determined.
But now things have dramatically changed. Take a look at this footage from February 1st, 2021. That's Sandra Birchmore heading up to her apartment. Now watch this. That's Matthew Farwell, a former Massachusetts police officer and president of the police union, heading up to Birchmore's apartment also. He spends 30 minutes there and then he leaves. Sandra Birchmore is never heard from again. But there is so much more to this story. Birchmore was 23 years old at the time, and she was allegedly pregnant with Farwell's child. But how did this married officer, who had a child on the way with his own wife, get involved with a woman so much younger than him?
Those investigators also determined that Birchmore had been having inappropriate relations with 3 Stoughton police officers. Now, according to the report, one of those officers had known Birchmore since she was 13 years of age and began a relationship with her at age 15.
In 2010, Birchmore joined the Police Explorers program at the age of 13. This is where Farwell met Birchmore. And according to reports, the two began an inappropriate relationship when she was only 15 years old. At the time, Farwell was 27.
Investigators say the two began a physical relationship when she was just 15 and he was 27, and it lasted for years until just days before her death.
But it doesn't stop there.
Farwell's twin brother, Officer William Farwell, and Officer Robert Devine also engaged in an inappropriate relationship with Birchmore over the years, according to the report.
Now, the Stoughton Police Department is where Farwell worked. Now, keep that in mind because they were not in charge of Birchmore's death investigation, since that happened in another town under another jurisdiction. But they were in charge of the Police Explorers program. And once they learned of Birchmore's death, they launched an internal investigation. In 2022, those results were released.
All 3 officers, Matthew Farwell, his brother William Farwell, and Robert Devine, they have since left the force. They have resigned. They are not facing any charges at this point, and they did not respond to our request today for comment.
Through a sustained and deliberate combination of lies, deceit, and treachery, they violated the policies and the core values of the Stoughton Police Department, not to mention human decency.
Matthew Farwell and Birchmore allegedly continued their relationship for another 8 years. And in 2020, Sandra becomes pregnant. But according to reports, Matthew Farwell is done with Sandra. They allegedly have an argument, and he drives a couple hours away to her apartment to break things off. Days later, Sandra Birchmore's body is found. Police say Sandra took something like a lanyard, wrapped it around her neck, and tied it to a doorknob, and simply sat down. But ever since her death, many friends and family have come forward saying that this should be looked at differently.
These men knew who they were dealing with, an innocent girl who was just looking for love and attention. And she didn't have an appropriate male figure in her life because her father wasn't in her life. So these guys became that, but they groomed her and they used that to their advantage.
According to one report, a friend allegedly tells authorities that Farwell becomes enraged when he finds out that Sandra is pregnant. And according to another co-worker, Sandra allegedly tells that co-worker that if something happens to her, it's because of Farwell.
I've been wanting something to happen to put whoever did it in jail. It's not like, okay, I did it, I'll get away with it.
But despite that evidence, police never investigated the scene as a murder. and they never considered Matthew Farwell as a suspect. But now things have dramatically changed. Because of the national attention, the FBI launched their own investigation just a couple of months ago. And there's this. According to the Boston Globe, a forensic pathologist hired by the family of Sandra Birchmore has now determined her death a homicide.
Well, not only could this change the entire nature of the case, we are also learning that this was investigated under the same Massachusetts State Police unit as the Karen Reed case.
Basically, have been trying to create a groundswell online to get people to realize that this young woman did not kill herself and her baby.
Dr. Michael Baden has said that Birchmore did not hang herself. Instead, she was strangled to death.
The family's attorney and Dr. Michael Baden's office declined to release that report to us.
Especially since a lot of people are putting eyes on the Karen Reed case, I am now able to piggyback off that.
Massachusetts State Police confirming it's the same unit but different officers as the Karen Reed case.
I've always taken the lanyard excuse as odd. In reports sent to me by officials over a year ago, they describe a messy apartment, but also they say that there was no sign of a struggle. How you can determine that there was no sign of a struggle, yet a very messy apartment, was difficult for me to understand, but I did accept it. And then I did this. I took the surveillance footage and I combined both Birchmore and Farwell, putting them side by side to show you the size difference between the two. If Farwell allegedly strangled her, it would make sense that he could easily overpower her. Therefore, there wouldn't be much sign of a struggle within a messy apartment. With the obvious difference in size, I've always wondered why police never even considered Farwell as a suspect. Birchmore was groomed as a child by men she should have trusted. Now the question is this: will one of those men be held responsible for her death?